So I just wanted to introduce Peter a bit more, because Peter Arlett is a lot. You know, he's is the head of the data analytics and methods of the European Medicines Agency. But, you know, he's a leader in a lot of what we do. You are chair of the EMA Data Board, co-chair of the HEMA-EMA Network Data Steering Group, co-chair of the EMA AI Coordination Group, co-chair of the Vaccine Monitoring Platform Steering Group, and member of the ACT-EU Steering Group. I also discovered, this I didn't know, that you are honorary professor at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. So please, we are looking forward to hear your perspective, Peter.
My Welsh grandmother used to say, if you've got lots of associations on your CV, it probably means you're getting a bit old. So that's what I would conclude. But thank you for taking the time to read through that long list. Firstly, thanks to VAC4EU for inviting me. It's really nice to be here. I know a lot of people and in the room, and it's a real pleasure to spend the day with you. Also, happy birthday, 5 or nearly 6 years. And a lot has happened in that time. I'm going to be less than 10 minutes, you'll be pleased to hear. I'm going to keep it reasonably short because I've been given a rather privileged slot at the end of the afternoon. So just a few initial reflections. Firstly, I've done my own experiment, and I've been reflecting on whether association always means causation. So I moved to London to join the European Medicines Agency at the end of 2008, and then we had the H1N1 pandemic in 2009, and I moved to Amsterdam to the EMA building at the end of 2019, and in 2020 we had COVID-19. So I'm wondering, well, perhaps I should stay put, would be my conclusion, or maybe association doesn't always mean causation. Anyway, it has been a long journey, and I remember H1N1. I'm particularly pleased that my former colleague Xavier Kurtz is in the audience, because Xavier was the epidemiological brain, and I was the person that did lots of heavy pushing at the EMA, and we made quite a double act, I think, over many years. But I remember H1N1, there wasn't an awful lot in place in terms of monitoring and observational studies of vaccines. It was really, really a struggle to get good data in a timely manner. And I would say we relied largely on spontaneous reports and had to make the best of what we had. Miriam has outlined the story, and moving from that to the Belgian presidency with the call for capacity and capability building on observational research, and then to the advanced project, and then to VAC4EU has been a long story, but it's been an important story in advocacy, well, in public health advocacy in a way. So very nice to be here with things an awful lot better than they used to be, I can tell you. One of the messages that at the EMA we keep repeating is about better clinical evidence. And the reason we keep making the point is that we believe that really good clinical evidence is at the heart of product development and at the heart of good decision-making on products, including vaccines. And it's not about observational studies or clinical trials. It's about allowing the research question to drive the study methods that you employ. So the primary demonstration of efficacy will almost always be a randomized controlled trial where feasible. Safety in everyday medical practice will almost always be real-world evidence observational and not a clinical trial. And having an open mind and bringing different specialists together is very central to what we're trying to achieve. Yesterday, and in fact, there's one or two of the people in the audience, Olaf was co-chairing part of the meeting. We had a meeting on external controls in clinical trials. And it was fascinating to see the spectrum of specialists in the audience between the epidemiologists and the and the biostatisticians. Some people who basically took the microphone repeatedly to say, well, this should be a randomized controlled trial. And others who were saying, well, that's not always possible, and we need to complement and have really good science to ensure that any external control is actually informative. Anyway, I just wanted to make the point that excellent clinical evidence is at the heart of what we do, and observational research is a very important part of that, hence VAC4EU being very important. Also, maybe I mentioned clinical trials and observational research, but there is a place for primary data, observational primary data collection. There's a place, obviously, to complement with laboratory research, and I think VAC4EU reflects that, because you have a spectrum of different approaches, and we will need that spectrum to respond to different questions. A couple of learnings back, some of them are obvious, but expect the unexpected. It's kind of at the core of drug safety monitoring, pharmacovigilance. But, we weren't expecting narcolepsy, we weren't expecting TTS, and we had to be ready and have an open mind. Just because we can't think of a biological plausibility doesn't mean that it's not causally associated. And that's one of the really interesting lessons for the last 20 years, perhaps 15 years. I'm kind of repeating this point, but I've written down here, we need it all. I want it and I want it all. But we need data, we need access to data, we need methods, we need networks, we need governance, data governance and study governance. We need a law and a mandate for decision making, and we need funds. Again, the work on advocacy for observational research in preparedness, vaccine research, has been a bit of a lesson in all of those elements. A little bit inspired, and Emily, I guess you're going to talk a little bit more about, but inspired by Heidi's words. Often the discussions about vaccine hesitancy is led, certainly at EMA, by our communications colleagues. And of course it is a communication issue, but fundamentally it's communication based on facts. And I think we should never forget that if we are to be credible and trusted, we need to ensure that we're generating high quality evidence on the safety and effectiveness of vaccines. And sometimes we've not been perhaps as give me a word. We haven't done as much as we should. I couldn't find quite the right word there, Rosa. I'm thinking particularly of influenza effectiveness. We don't get yearly effectiveness data for all the vaccines that are rolled out. And that reminds me that we have some gaps in monitoring. The recency of data is a key point, and it's highly relevant to VAC4EU, and also some of the special populations work. Are we really good at monitoring in pregnancy and the outcome in children and lost pregnancies and so on? So there are still lots of areas where we need to do more work. So I believe we've made a huge progress, but I don't think we're exactly where we want to be yet. I think we need to do more capability and capacity building. We need to fill the gaps, and let's not be complacent. Final point, and it's very much laid out today, and that is the core role of a collaborative approach across stakeholder groups. And I think VAC4EU is a really nice example of that. Thank you.